"Sir, can you tell Santa we moved?" said a boy to the poor single mom's boss on Christmas night. Snow fell softly that Christmas night, the kind that muffled the world and made every sound feel far away, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Streetlights glowed like distant stars, and the cold air carried a quiet sadness that clung to the sidewalks. On the steps of an old apartment building sat a young single mother and her small son, their shadows long and thin against the wooden walls, looking like people the world had forgotten. And just a few steps away, fate was about to collide with regret, guilt, and a miracle that no one had planned. If you believe that kindness can change lives, that second chances still exist even on the coldest nights, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Emily Carter never imagined her life would look like this. At 26, she had once dreamed of stability, of a warm home filled with laughter, of Christmas mornings where gifts crowded the tree and worries stayed far away. But dreams don't always survive reality. Her husband had left years ago, disappearing the moment responsibility grew heavy. Since then, Emily had been fighting a quiet, exhausting battle to raise her son alone in a country that rarely slowed down for people who were falling behind. She worked long hours as a cleaner in a corporate office downtown, scrubbing floors after executives went home, earning just enough to survive but never enough to breathe. Her boss, Michael Thompson, was everything Emily was not. He was respected, wealthy, confident, and distant. To him, employees were names on schedules and faces he barely noticed. He approved time cards, signed paychecks, and went back to his glass-walled office overlooking the city. Emily had seen him only a handful of times. Always in a suit, always busy, always unreachable. She never imagined he would become part of her story. This Christmas was especially cruel. 2 weeks before the holiday, Emily had been evicted. Rising rent, unexpected medical bills, and a paycheck that never stretched far enough had finally crushed her. She packed what little she owned into old bags and boxes, holding back tears so her son wouldn't see. They moved into a temporary shelter, but even that space was uncertain. That night, after being turned away because the shelter was full, Emily found herself sitting on the steps of an abandoned-looking building, clutching her son close, trying to shield him from the cold wind and the deeper fear in her chest. Her son, Daniel, was only 4 years old. He didn't fully understand why their home was gone or why his bed had disappeared. He just knew it was Christmas, that Santa was supposed to come, and that everything felt different. He held a worn teddy bear in his small hands, a gift Emily had found at a thrift store months ago. His cheeks were red from the cold, but his eyes were wide, curious, and still filled with belief. Michael Thompson was walking home from a holiday dinner when he turned down that street. His driver had dropped him off a few blocks away to avoid traffic, and for once, Michael was alone. The evening had been filled with laughter, expensive food, and empty conversations. He felt strangely hollow, though he couldn't explain why. As he walked, his thoughts drifted to numbers, meetings, and plans for the new year. He barely noticed the snow or the quiet beauty of the night. Then he saw them. At first, they were just shapes in the shadows. A woman sitting stiffly, a child beside her, bags at their feet. Michael slowed, something uncomfortable stirring in his chest. He told himself to keep walking. He told himself it wasn't his problem. But something made him stop. Emily noticed him immediately. Her body tensed. Years of being invisible had taught her to expect judgment, not kindness. She pulled Daniel closer, hoping the well-dressed stranger wouldn't say anything cruel or ask them to move. Daniel, however, saw something else. He saw a man who looked important, like the people on TV who knew how the world worked. Without fear, he leaned forward slightly, his small voice carrying through the quiet street. He asked if the man could tell Santa they had moved, because Santa might go to the old address and not find them. He explained that his mom tried really hard, and that Santa shouldn't worry. Those simple words hit Michael like a blow to the chest. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. Michael stood frozen, staring at the boy, then at the woman beside him. Recognition flickered across his face, slow and painful. He knew her. Not personally, not really. But he had seen her name on cleaning schedules, watched her silently mop floors outside his office late at night. Emily Carter, one of his employees, a single mother who never complained, never missed a shift, never asked for help. And there she was, homeless on Christmas night. Shame rose in Michael's throat. He thought of his bonuses, his holiday gifts, the charity gala he had attended just days earlier where people applauded generosity while never touching the reality of need. He thought of the raises he had denied, the budgets he had tightened, the faces he had never really seen. Emily watched his expression change and felt her heart sink. She expected anger or disgust. She was ready to apologize for her son, ready to explain, ready to beg him not to fire her if he recognized her. Losing her job would mean losing the last fragile thread holding her life together. But Michael didn't walk away. He stood there, hands in his coat pockets, breathing in the cold air, feeling something break open inside him. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking like a boss or a businessman. He was thinking like a human being. He asked himself how a system he helped run could allow this to happen. How a woman working full-time could still end up on the street with her child. How he could celebrate Christmas while standing in front of living proof that something was terribly wrong. Without making promises or grand gestures, Michael made a decision that would change all their lives. That night, he arranged for Emily and Daniel to stay in a nearby hotel. It wasn't charity to him anymore. It was responsibility. He contacted resources he had never bothered to learn about before. He made calls, not to assistants, but personally, refusing to let the task be delegated. Emily listened in disbelief as her reality shifted hour by hour. Fear slowly loosened its grip on her chest, replaced by cautious hope. Over the next few days, Michael learned more about Emily's life than he ever knew about any employee. He learned about her early mornings, her secondhand shoes, her skipped meals so Daniel could eat. He learned how close she had come to giving up. Each detail weighed on him, not as pity, but as a reckoning. Michael didn't just help Emily. He changed his company policies, he approved wage increases, established an emergency assistance fund, and partnered with local housing programs. He realized that leadership meant more than profit. It meant seeing people. Emily moved into a small but warm apartment before New Year's Eve. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe. There was a door that locked, a bed for Daniel, and a kitchen where Emily could finally cook without fear. On Christmas morning, Daniel woke up to find gifts by the window. And though Emily didn't know how they got there, she cried quietly so her son wouldn't see. Daniel never forgot that night. He still believed in Santa, but he also learned something else. He learned that sometimes Santa looks like a tired man in a coat, walking home through the snow, waiting for a reminder of who he could be. As the year went on, Emily's life slowly stabilized. She was promoted to a daytime position with better pay and benefits. She wasn't treated like a burden, but like a valued part of the team. Her confidence returned. Her smile did too. Michael, on the other hand, found that his success felt different now, lighter, more meaningful. That one moment on a quiet street had given him more fulfillment than any award or bonus ever had. He understood now that kindness wasn't weakness, it was power. If this story is touching your heart, if it's reminding you that small moments can change everything, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because they reflect what we can become. Years later, Emily would tell Daniel about that Christmas night, not as a story of suffering, but as a story of hope. A story about how the world almost broke them, and how one moment of compassion held them together. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe kindness still exists in this world, or share your own story of a moment that changed your life. Because somewhere tonight, someone is sitting in the cold, wondering if they've been forgotten. And somewhere else, someone is walking past them, not knowing that one small act could become a miracle. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please engage with the video. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. On that Christmas night, under falling snow and flickering lights, a little boy's innocent belief reminded a broken world that miracles don't always come wrapped in paper. Sometimes they come disguised as a question, spoken softly into the cold, waiting for the right heart to hear it. The weeks after Christmas did not suddenly turn Emily's life into a fairy tale. There were no instant riches, no dramatic headlines, no applause. What came instead was something far more real and far more fragile: stability. And for Emily Carter, stability felt like a miracle she was afraid to touch too tightly, worried it might disappear if she did. The new apartment was small, tucked above a bakery on a quiet street in a modest neighborhood in Ohio. The walls were thin, the heater made odd noises at night, and the stairs creaked under every step, but it was warm. It had a door that locked, windows that kept the cold out, and a kitchen where Emily could boil water without watching the clock or counting coins. The first night they slept there, Emily lay awake long after Daniel had drifted off, listening to his steady breathing, letting the sound convince her that this was real. Daniel adapted faster than she did. Children often do. He arranged his few toys on the windowsill and pressed his nose to the glass every morning, watching people walk by with coffee cups and backpacks. He liked the smell of bread drifting up from the bakery downstairs. He liked that he had his own bed. Most of all, he liked that his mother smiled more now, even if the smile sometimes trembled at the edges. Emily returned to work the first Monday after New Year's, with a mixture of gratitude and fear. She half expected the warmth she had been shown to fade once the holidays were over. But it didn't. Michael Thompson greeted her by name. Not rushed, not distracted. He asked how Daniel was. That single question nearly undid her. No boss had ever asked her that before. Michael had changed too, though quietly in ways that didn't make headlines. He started staying late, not to monitor productivity, but to listen. He noticed the cleaners, the assistants, the interns. He learned names. He learned stories. The image of Emily and Daniel on that frozen street had settled deep inside him, a reminder he couldn't shake. Every decision he made now carried a question he had never asked before. Who does this affect? At home, Emily's evenings slowly filled with normal things she had missed for years. Cooking simple meals, reading Daniel bedtime stories without the hum of fear in her chest, sitting at the small table, budgeting with a pencil and paper, realizing for the first time that the numbers didn't always end in panic. Some nights she still cried. Trauma doesn't vanish just because circumstances improve. But the tears were different now. They were quieter. They were healing. Daniel talked about Santa, less as winter faded, but he talked about the man in the coat more. He didn't know Michael's name, only that he had listened. In Daniel's world, listening was the same as caring. Emily never corrected him. Some beliefs are too pure to dismantle. Spring came slowly. Snow melted into muddy sidewalks, then into green shoots pushing through stubborn ground. Emily saved what she could. She bought Daniel new shoes when his toes began to curl. She framed a drawing he made of their new house and hung it above the bed. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. One afternoon, months after Christmas, Emily was called into Michael's office. The old fear flared instantly, muscle memory from years of instability. She smoothed her jacket, took a breath, and stepped inside. But this time, the conversation was different. Michael offered her a supervisory role, better pay, daytime hours. He spoke plainly, without pity, explaining that her work ethic and reliability had earned it. Emily accepted with shaking hands. That night, she celebrated by buying a small cake from the bakery downstairs. Daniel blew out the candles with dramatic seriousness, as if making a wish that required deep thought. Emily didn't ask what it was. She already knew. Life did not become easy. There were still bills, still exhaustion, still moments when Emily felt the old fear creeping back. But there was also momentum. Now. And momentum, she learned, is powerful. Michael's changes rippled outward. Other employees felt it. Policies shifted. People who had once felt invisible began to feel seen. Not every story ended perfectly, but more stories ended better than before. And for Michael, that was enough to keep going. Years later, Daniel would stand on that same street, now taller, stronger, wearing a winter coat that fit him properly. He would remember very little about the cold, but he would remember the question he asked. He would remember that someone listened. Emily would watch him from the doorway of a life she had fought hard to build, knowing that the night she thought had broken her had instead rewritten everything. Because sometimes the miracle isn't the help itself. Sometimes the miracle is being seen. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is one small voice, brave enough to believe the world might answer back.